How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my week 12 picks video. Can't believe it is already week 12. We are about two-thirds of the way to the season, the regular season at least. That's insane to think. The season has flown by, even though it's been very painful for me. But yeah, just I've had my team's horrible. Not much betting luck, and most of my fantasy teams suck. So it's been pretty rough year for me, but still has flown by. Very much enjoyed it. I'm a football junkie, so can't get enough of it still. Anyway, I'm going to dive into all my picks and predictions for the games here, just walk through my thought process, break it down, all that good stuff. So I'll dive in here. So I got the Thursday game wrong. I had a kind of a feeling that this was a prime game for Mike Tomlin's team. Again, I think I've talked about it through my videos, has a tendency to just play bad, play down to the competition. And yep, I had a feeling this was a good chance for one of them to happen, and that's exactly what happened pretty much. Weird games. I don't want to get too much in the recap here, but the Browns were kind of, it was, you know, well, obviously it was a big snow game. That was the highlight of it. Browns were ahead in the second half for most of the time. It looked like they certainly were going to win when they went up two scores. And the Steelers got a touchdown, and then they got a strip sack, and they got a touchdown. It's like, all right, yep, the Steelers are going to end up stealing this game. No pun intended. And then Winston threw a pick. It's like, yep, Steelers got this game. And then there's the shitty punt and then kind of some questionable clock management, Mike Tomlin burning a timeout when the clock was already stopped, and on a 3rd and 7, which he declined a penalty. It would have been 4th and 2, so kind of some questionable coaching there. I think it might have been to get I think they had an extra man on the field or something like that. I not 100% sure. Anyway, don't want to get too much in the recap. I'll talk about it in my Week 12 recap video later this week when that comes out. Hopefully around, yeah, probably Thursday morning-ish, afternoon, somewhere around that time frame. So yeah, I'll talk about it then. But yeah, kind of a weird game that Thursday game. It was fun to see the snow games though, or the first snow game at least. But jumping into the Sunday games, first one is Vikings and Bears. I'm gonna go with the Vikings in this game, but it's kind of the same situation as the Packers game for me last week with the Bears, where I'm picking against the Bears, but I can very much see them winning this game. They played their offense, it only put up 19 points last week. Again, probably should have been 22 with the field goal at the end there, but only 19. But they moved the ball. Again, only one game, not a big sample size, obviously. They moved the ball better. Their offense looked better. Caleb Williams looked better. He had a clutch throw, clutch couple of plays there, that clutch throw to Odunze, I mean. So yeah, only one game. Maybe the Packers didn't know what they were preparing for defensively. Not that I don't think schematically much changed, but maybe the Packers didn't know what they were fully preparing for. The coordinator change for the Bears. But the Packers defense has been really solid all year, and the Bears offense are pretty solid. Bears defense is kind of not a fantastic game, but an okay game. But yeah, this game though, I mean, again, like I said, I can definitely see it going either way. But Vikings are just the better team. Now you get a full week of tape to prepare for the Bears' new offense with their new coordinator, pass game coordinator, calling the plays now, running the offense. Brian Flores, his disguise defense. That again, I mentioned it is. I think every time the Vikings this year have gone up against a young quarterback, probably going to be a rough game trying to read the defense for Caleb Williams and company there. No, Brian Flores' disguises and his aggressive blitz. Brian Flores, my guess is Brian Flores probably blitzes the shit out of Caleb Williams in this game. Bears offensive line is pretty bad. So Brian Flores might be sending some extra blitzers, maybe more than he normally does. I think the Vikings defense is going to probably have a good game in this one. I think the Vikings offense, I think this game honestly plays out similar to Bears Packers last week. I think the Vikings offense is going to have like a mixed day where they have a couple of drives, they move the ball, they put up points, they look good, and then they kind of stall out. Bears defense is a couple good drives. I think the Bears defense, again, like last week, kind of is a mixed day. Bears offense, again, I kind of mentioned it, but I think it's going to probably have a rough one in this game. I think they'll be able to put up probably around the same amount of points last week. I mean, I definitely can see the Bears winning. They obviously are trying to make a push to the playoffs. Maybe they're going to be a bit desperate in this game at 4-6. You really do not want to fall to 4-7 when you're making a playoff push, obviously. I will say, though, the Bears defense, last year, both games that played the Vikings, the Bears played the Vikings. Their defense played really well. They split the series. The first game was in Chicago. That was when the Bears were like really struggling still, and the Vikings ended up winning I think it was like a 12-9 final or something like that. It was a super low, maybe 15-10, something like that. Vikings ended up winning like a super low scoring game, but they didn't put up a lot of points. And then the Bears, when they kind of started their hot streak last year, and they won 5 of their last, I forget the exact number, but they ended up getting hot last year and won, I think, 5 out of 7 games or something like that was the number. And then they finished 7-10. I think it kind of started with the Vikings, or at least they played the Vikings early on when they started to get hot. And that was the game in Minnesota where Josh Dobbs was starting, and he had a nightmare of a game. He had a bunch of turnovers, and the Vikings showed a chance that they were in the lead late in that game, and Fields ended up getting a game-winning drive in that one. But my point is, the Bears defense has played the Vikings really well both games last year, and even in Matt Eberflus's first year. I can't remember the second matchup off the top of my head, but I know the Vikings swept them that year. But I remember the first matchup. I think the Vikings actually put up a good amount of points, but the Bears ended up narrowly losing that game. I think if I remember right, Fields is leading the drive to try to tie the game, and the Vikings ended up getting they ripped the ball out of, I forget whose hands it was. Might have been Darnell Mooney's, and they ended up getting the ball, and they might have returned it. I forget exactly what happened in that play, but I remember trying to remember that game. I think the Vikings were up big early. It looks like they were going to blow the Bears out, and the Bears ended up battling back, and they had a chance at the end there, but that turnover really killed them. But anyway, my point is that, yeah, Matty Stevens played the Vikings well. He probably is going to scheme well for Sam Darnold, who not really last week against the Titans, but the prior couple weeks he had a lot of turnovers, had a lot of plays where it looks like the Sam Darnold we've known for most of his career starting at quarterback for the Vikings. So the Bears can win this game. I think it's going to be because their defense is a really good game. Sam Darnold probably throws them a couple passes, gets some picks in there. Yeah, their offense, I could see it, even though I'm going to say that it's a rough kind of a mixed day for the Bears offense, but a lot of confusion and sacks and just their offense looking out of sorts due to Brian Flores defense. But I could see a scenario where the Bears offense also kind of has a randomly good game, just kind of torches the Vikings defense. But I'm just going to go with the Vikings in this game. They're the better team. I just can't fully pick the Bears and trust them. So I'm going to say the Vikings win this game. I think this will be a close game. I could see the Vikings winning by more than one score, maybe like 9 or 10 or something like that. I'm going to say the Vikings win. Boy. You know what? I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that they win by 9. I'm going to say 23-14 Vikings. Oh, but I kind of do I really only see the Bears scoring 14 points? Yeah, why not? I'll just stick with my 23-14 in that one, but the Bears are probably going to end up scoring more, and I'm going to be pissed at myself. But I'll say 23-14 Vikings. Lions Colts. This could be a trap game for the Lions. The Lions are due for a loss, and the Colts are kind of capable of. They're a weird team. I feel like they're capable of beating anyone, but they're also capable of losing to anyone. And the Colts are also trying to make a playoff push, so they don't want to fall to 5-7. They obviously want to get the win. And obviously, Anthony Richardson had a really good game last week coming off the bench when he was benched for 2 weeks in Indy. He had a really good game last week, and they ended up getting a win against the Jets. Now, so they're coming into this game with momentum. Obviously, the Lions have more momentum than the Colts right now. But it took Anthony Richardson having a heroic, maybe not a heroic game, but a really good game and a really clutch last drive of the game there for Anthony Richardson. And they barely beat the Jets, who we all know are just an absolute. I mean, that actually might be the worst situation I've seen a team in my entire life. What's going on with that team right now is just an actual dumpster fire. I know people, and I use that term like very, very loosely sometimes, but I actually think what's happening with the Jets right now is a literal dumpster fire. So, and it took, again, Anthony Richardson had a really good game and probably make an argument the best game of his career to narrowly beat that team. And they're playing the Lions, who are the best team in football right now. They're blowing everyone out. They're 9-1. Their offense looks like the greatest show on turf. Their defense has played very well. So the Colts really going to beat the Lions? That's, I mean, I could see, I mean, only 2% of people in my league are on them. 98%. I think this pick percentages should be a little bit closer here. I'd probably say like I don't know, like a 85-15 split, something like that. In the Lions' favor, of course. But I'm just gonna go with the Lions in this game. I mean, their offense is just absolutely unstoppable. The Colts defense it wasn't great at the start of the year. It's actually been playing better the past couple weeks. The Lions defense, I feel like, could give Richardson a rough game and company a rough game. I think. See, I say that, and I could also see a scenario where the Colts just have a really good game offensively. Jonathan Taylor gets it going, Anthony Richardson gets it going, and the Lions even has a shitty showing. Honestly, part of my gut, even though not much logically suggests the Colts can win this game, part of my gut wants to pick them. I don't think the Lions are going to fall, and if they lose, I don't think it's going to be because of the trap game factor, like they didn't prepare, as much to the Colts as they would like a really elite team. I don't think it's going to be that. It seems like the Lions just game plan just as much for every team, regardless of their skill level and record. Obviously, we saw that with the Jags last week, which, I mean, that you can argue that could have been a trap game. The Jags are god awful, but they have enough talent to kind of push any team. You saw with the Texans, the Eagles, even though that was kind of a fluky game that they ended up coming back in. They didn't win, but we saw it with those two examples, and it happened last week. You could argue, and the Lions obviously more than took care of business. Put up a 50 plus bomb, and they held the Jags to 6. So what was he at 51? 50, I think it was 52-6. I think it was 52-6, the final, if I remember right. But yeah, I mean, not much logically, I don't think, suggests the Colts can win this game. Besides, the Lions are due for a loss, and the Colts are maybe playing, with more. How do I phrase this? They're just more. I don't want to say motivated. More. I don't know how to say it. They're just playing with a bigger sense of urgency. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Now that they're 5-6, making a playoff push, they're at home. They really are probably trying to, especially when this game against the red hot Lions, that'll really catapult them in their momentum moving forward. I just can't pick the Colts. The Lions have just been the better team. Definitely could see it though. I definitely could see it. I think the Lions offense has a good game in this one, but I could kind of see it having like a mixed. If the Colts the Colts win this game, I think it'll be close. And I also could see a weird scenario where the Colts just kind of win, maybe not convincingly, but kind of comfortably, even though that might be a little crazy to say. I could definitely see the Lions winning this game comfortably by more than one score. but I'm going to say this game is maybe, I also could see them winning by one score. I think the Lions offense is a solid day, but could get stuck in the 20s somewhere, which again, that's pretty good anyway. But, for them, if they score some in the 20s, they're going to be probably, maybe not pissed, but, they're probably going to think that they can do better than that with how well their offense has been playing. I think the Lions defense, solid day. I think the Colts offense kind of has a rough day, but has a couple drives they look good. And the Colts defense kind of has a rough game too. I'm going to say that the Lions take this game. I'll say 27-17. But I could definitely see the Colts upset in this one. I'm going to say the Lions take this one 27-17. My team and the Dolphins. So unfortunately, I'm going to go with the Dolphins in this game. Dolphins have been getting hot lately. They were 2-6. They've won 2 in a row. Obviously, they are trying to make playoff push. They really can probably only afford one more loss if they want to get into the playoffs. They're going to have to probably win out besides that. And of course, they're going to try to win every game, but they probably know that they can only afford one loss most likely, and they know that that one loss cannot come against my team that's 3-8 and is in a rebuild year, especially when they beat us early in the year on the road at Gillette with Tyler Huntley. Obviously, Tua's back, so that's their offense is going to get a boost compared to when Tyler Huntley was leading it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see my team winning this game, but the Dolphins are just the better team this year. Even though we're 3-8, I actually think we're a bit better than people are giving us credit for. We've had a couple really shitty games, like that Jags game. What's another one? That Niners game we kind of looked really shitty into. There's another one at the top of my head I can't remember. Oh, the Jets Thursday night game. We looked horrible in that game. But I think we are honestly better than people give us credit for this year. I'm excited for our future. But not to get too high on myself, back to this game. Dolphins offense, I think, is probably going to have a good game in this one. It's kind of some questionable coaching decisions in general last week, but defensively, we didn't put Christian Gonzalez, on either Kupp or Nacua, and they absolutely torched us. So I don't know what the hell we were thinking there. Obviously, we can only put Gonzalez on one of either Hill or Waddle for each play. So the other one is probably going to be open if they pass it. Defensive, even though our defense played fair. So our defense, if you just look at the stats and the scoreboard, played fairly decent in that first Dolphins game, but the Dolphins were kind of moving the ball on us. They just kept. They had a botch snap with the field goal. They missed, I think, 2 field goal kicks. They were just a very disorganized, and they still won the game against us. So I think the Dolphins offense, and again, that was with Tyler Huntley. It's obviously going to look better with Tua, who, even though we haven't beaten Tua yet, he usually, I mean, off the top of I don't really like Tua anyway, but I don't think Tua's played well in a majority of the wins that he's even got against us. But I think in this game, he's going to probably have a good game. Their offense is going to have a good game. It's probably going to be an ugly loss for us, I fear. Dolphins defense, I think, will have a okay game. I think our offense will have a couple drives where you look good. I think this game will be close throughout it, but I could also see the Dolphins blowing us out. If we end up winning this game, I don't think it'll be by more than one score. I think it'll be close. And I think like I mentioned, I think our defense is probably going to have a rough game in this one. I just can already kind of see Hill getting open deep, Waddle getting open deep, their play action game torching us. Just do not have a great feeling about this game. I really just think our defense is going to have a rough game. So if we somehow win this game, I think it's going to be because Drake May pulls one out of his ass and the offense just has a really good game. So I'm going to say the Dolphins. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong and my team does win. But I'm going to say the Dolphins win this game. I'll say 24-14, 27-14. I'll say 24-14 Dolphins. Bucks Giants. So this is exactly what the Bucks needed after dropping a couple in a row with all their injuries. So obviously they had the bye week, so that's going to help the team on a losing streak and beat up in general. And you're coming off your bye week against the Giants, who, just like the Jets, they're a complete disaster right now. I think the Jets are in a worse situation. The Giants are just a complete disaster right now. They just cut Daniel Jones yesterday, and they hit him playing safety in practice, the scout team safety, and Daniel Jones requested to be released. So I can't believe. Well, I mean, he requested it, Daniel Jones, so I guess they granted it to him. But I just can't believe Daniel Jones. They just released. Well, I can't say again. Daniel Jones requested it, but it's just insane to think they released Daniel Jones. I mean, I never really was high on Daniel Jones anyway. He just obviously had one good year in 22 and had that really good playoff game against the Vikings. And then that they just got sucked into that $40 million contract they paid him. So he's making 40 mil a year to be unemployed right now, which apparently he's going to clear waivers and sign with a contender. It would have been the funniest thing ever to be signed with the Cowboys. They play the Giants on Thanksgiving this upcoming week, so that would have been hilarious. But anyway, not to get ahead of myself here. This is what the Bucks need. They got healthy. They're getting Dean back. Well, healthier. They got Dean back, or they're getting Dean back. Mike Evans is coming back in this game, and they're playing the Giants, who are having Tommy DeVito, who obviously he kind of hit a couple stretch of games last year where he hit an insanity run. Even during that series, or that streak where the Giants were winning, I never really thought Tommy DeVito was playing, as great as the media was kind of hyping him up to me. I just thought he was going to be, he was just playing as kind of a game manager and just doing what needed to be, not really making too many great plays. And then he just kind of shit the bed after those couple of games. He ended up winning. So my point is, I'm not really high on Tommy DeVito, and even though the Bucks defense has been really rough, obviously having Jamel Dean back is gonna help the pass defense, well, the defense in general, but especially the pass defense. Going against Tommy DeVito, Todd Bowles coming off a bye week, I think that has potential for disaster written over it for the Giants offense. So I think the Giants offense could have a rough day, but I could also see the Giants offense just randomly having a good game, taking advantage of the Bucks struggling defense. Just DeVito finding guys open, even though I just rip it on him. He is Italian though. I'm an Italian myself, so my fellow Italian, good to see him in there at least. But yeah, I just think the Bucks defense is going to have a good game in this one. Again, I just think it's probably going to be a rough game for Tommy DeVito and company. I think the Bucks offense has kind of a mixed game. I mean, the Giants defense has been pretty underrated this season. They got some recognition before the past couple weeks of the Giants season just completely went to hell. But I still think the Giants defense is a solid game in this, or not a solid, but a decent game in this one. But I think the Bucks offense definitely scores enough points to win this game. I could see a Giants win, but I feel fairly confident with the Bucks. I probably have like an 80-20 confidence probability of this game. I mean, the Bucks know I'm talking about teams that know that they need to start sagging some wins to make the playoffs. The Bucks are in that exact situation. They do not want to fall to 4-7, even though they made it last year. They were 4-7 and they won their division. That I don't think it's going to be the case this year, especially because they got swept by the Falcons. The Bucks just really need to start sagging some wins here. And like the Dolphins, with my team, they know that they cannot afford to lose. If they're going to lose a game, it cannot be to the 2-8 Giants with Tommy DeVito and all the turmoil going on with Daboll on the hot seat. Didn't even mention that. They're just a better team, coming off bye week, healthier. Schematically, I just don't think it's a great matchup for the Giants. I'm going to say the Bucks take this game. I'll say, Bucks get a much needed win with a score of, what do I want to say? I'll say 20. I'll say 24-14. Could see 23-14, something like that. I'll say 24-14 Bucks. Cowboys Commanders. I'm going with the Commanders in this game. I mean, I just don't know how anyone can pick the Cowboys. The Cowboys, like not even this game, just any game in general. The Cowboys are just an absolute disaster. They played a little bit better than people were expecting them to last week, but still, they lost by 24 points, and it was only 10 points going in the fourth quarter and end the ball. And then that strip sack happened when the Texans returned it. Derek Barnett. The Cowboys are just a disaster right now. Their defense is horrible. Their offense is horrible. The Commanders, though, obviously on a 2-game losing streak. People starting to question maybe they come back down to earth a little bit. I think the Commanders will be good enough to get into the playoffs. I don't think they'll win their division. I think the Eagles are definitely going to win the division now. But I think Commanders probably will end up getting into the playoffs. Probably around 10-7 ish, somewhere around that range. I mean, the Commanders are just the better team. They've been playing better, even though their offense has kind of looked, especially last week, it didn't really look too great. It actually not horrible, but it didn't look good at all against the Eagles. That was an elite Eagles defense. At least it's been playing like that for majority of the year, kind of after that Tampa game, pretty much. And the Cowboys defense is just horrible. I could see a random scenario though where the Cowboys defense does have a good game, but the Commanders offense kind of struggling a little bit. Could see that, but I just am pretty confident the Commanders defense is going to have a good game in this one, make it a rough one for Cooper Rush and company. I do see a scenario where the Cowboys win this game, but I think if the Cowboys win this game, it'll just be because their defense is like a randomly good game. And I'm going to tell you, if the Commanders lose this game, though, I think everyone's going to be jumping off their bandwagon. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Commanders are going to win this game. They're just the better team. Their offense, defense has been better. Coaching's even been better. Although I think it is their Cliff Kingsbury offense. It's been a trend with Cliff Kingsbury in the NFL, where his offense start the year, they look pretty good. They're hot to start the year, and then as the year progresses, somewhere in the middle of the year, they kind of just drop off, and teams just play them better. But I don't think that's going to be the case of this game. I'm pretty confident with the Commanders. I'm going to say the Commanders take this game. I'll say 20. Let's say 20. God, I hate doing final score predictions. It's so hard. I'll say 27-13 Commanders in this one. Oh boy, Chiefs, Panthers. So not in this league, but only 3% of people in my league are taking the Panthers. But I see some people like actually believe like picking the Panthers and like thinking they have a chance. So of course they have a chance. Any team has a chance on any given Sunday. And the Panthers are on a 2-game win streak. They've been playing better, and they're coming off a bye. They're at homes. They get an extra week to prepare. I mean, they're 3-7, so I mean, technically they're not like eliminated from the playoffs still, obviously. But I mean, they know that they're not going to make the playoffs. Their players and coaching staff have to know that. But they're coming off a bye. They're like, all right, well, the mindset of them is, well, we're obviously not good this year, but we're on a 2-game win streak coming off a bye. We get the back-to-back Super Bowl champs. We're at home, fresh sense with Bryce Young playing a little bit better after his benching. Let's try to get a statement win. One, not that they're trying to lose anyway, like Percy, but let's try to get a statement win against the defending Super Bowl champs, and that's going to be something we can look at in the offseason. It's a big win, maybe catapult us into a good year next year. But I can't pick the Panthers. I will be pulling for the Panthers so hard in this game. I think literally everyone I think everyone in America outside of Kansas City is pulling for whoever's playing them every week anyway. But I think it's especially the case this game, just because the amount of trolls and memes going to be made if the Panthers somehow win this game. That would be, oh my God, I would be in heaven seeing the Chiefs lose to the Panthers. But I was like in literal heaven last week when the Bills beat them, my friggin' division rival. That's how much I hate them. But of course, I just can't pick them to lose to the Panthers. I mean, the Chiefs are obviously just the better team, even though this is not a very elite, convincingly great. That was a weird phrase. Not like the most elite of Chiefs teams we've seen this year. I mean, obviously they just lost the Bills, so they're going to be looking to bounce back. Andy Reid teams are usually good at bouncing back, and they definitely. I mean, this is a trap game, but the Chiefs don't fall into trap games. They usually just prepare like the Lions for every team just as hard as regardless of record, how well they're playing, things like that. So I think the Panthers defense has been awful this year. I think the Chiefs offense is a good game in this one. I think the Chiefs defense probably makes this a game from hell for Bryce Young and company. I just think the Chiefs are going to take control of this game early and just hold throughout, probably blow the Panthers out. The Panthers, the only logic that suggests they can win this game is what I was talking about. They're coming off the bye week. Maybe the Chiefs railing a bit after their loss against the Bills last week, although I don't think that's the case, but let's say it is. Panthers offense just randomly strings together a good game. I mean, Dave Canales, I like Dave Canales. I think he's a pretty good offensive coach. So maybe he strings together a good game plan. The Panthers defensively, even though it's been awful this year, Giro Everett, I still like him as a defensive coordinator. You know, the defense has been absolute dog shit this year for the most part. Maybe he just randomly puts a good game plan together and they execute well, but I just cannot pick them to win this game. I'm going to say the Chiefs win this game convincingly. I'll say 27 to I'll say 27 to 10 Chiefs. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong though. I'm going to be especially pulling for the Panthers in that one. Titans Texans. I think this is a trap game for the Texans, but I'm going to pick the Texans. I trust the Texans a little bit less than I do for the other potential trap game teams I talked about throughout this video. I mean, the Texans, even though they won by 24 against the Cowboys last week, there was still a couple of spots during that game where it's like something just seems a bit off with this team. Titans, obviously, their season's been a disaster. Their season's pretty much over. But it's a division game, division game. Again, anything can happen, any game, any given Sunday or Thursday, Monday, whatever day it is, or even Friday. We had a Black Friday game. Hopefully that'd be a nice Black Friday present of the Raiders beat the Chiefs. But any given whatever day the game's being played on, especially if it's a division game, is my point. Titans are 2-8, but they have the ability to kind of be a sneaky tough team, under the radar team. Obviously, they've looked horrible and gotten blown out most of this year, but they have a couple games where they look good for portions of it. And the Texans being a bit vulnerable, maybe the Titans take advantage of that. But I think DeMeco Ryans just has his defense ready to play, makes Will Levis and company have a rough game. Even though Will Levis has kind of looked and played better the past 2 weeks after he came back from his injury. But I think the Texans, just their defense is a really good game. I think their offense even though Titans defense is, it might even be the top ranked defense still, but it's one of the top ranked defenses overall. And the Texans offense, again, has kind of been under fire, not been playing too great the past couple weeks. Something's been off with the team, especially their offense in general. I could see a scenario where the Titans defense just plays well throughout the game, but actually, John, I'll even predict that early this game is tight early, and it's like, oh boy. But then the Texans, I think, will pull away with this game. I just think the Texans offense. I think the Texans offense has a solid but not great day. I think they'll probably put up like 24, something like that. I just think the Texans defense is going to go a long way in them winning this game. But I think the Titans defense is a bit better than people are expecting, maybe. But I think their offense to me is a drive or two, maybe early. It seems like Brian Callahan is a pretty good game planner early. They look good early. But then I think maybe after that, the Texans defense just really takes this game over. I'm going to say Texans win this game with a score of, I'll say 24-13 Texans. Could see 27 to maybe even 10, 14, something like that. But I'll say 24 to, whatever. Fuck it. I'm going to say 27 to 13 Texans in this one. Broncos Raiders. I'm going to go with the Broncos in this game. The Broncos are just very under the radar, very good team this year. They're getting some recognition for it, but I think I mentioned it. One thing they do is they just game plan on a week to week basis very well. It seems like they don't usually negatively let them or what happened the prior week affect them. I mentioned it in my last video with, maybe the Chiefs, they're demoralized after that loss. Well, certainly didn't show it last week. They blew the Falcons out, a pretty solid team, even though the Falcons been kind of a weird team, but they blew them out. And the Raiders are just a mess this year. The Broncos killed them in Denver when they played a couple weeks ago. Broncos were up big. They won by 24, I think. Maybe the Raiders got a garbage time touchdown, make it a bit closer. You know what they did? I think they only won by 16 'cause they were on 24. The Raiders scored and they got a 2 point conversion, I think. Or maybe they didn't get the 2 point conversion. One of the two happened. I forget exactly. But regardless, the Broncos won that game big. I just think I don't think the Broncos are going to win by the margin they did in Denver, but I feel pretty confident with the Broncos in this game. The Raiders are another team where their season's just been a disaster. I mean, they obviously have a bunch of questions. Antonio Pierce kind of getting some heat. Maybe he's on the hot seat. Minshew's been kind of a mess this year. Their offense has been bad for the most part. Their defense has actually been pretty solid, but it's had a couple rough games too. Denver's just the better team. Their offense is better. Their defense has been better. Their coaching's been better. I think the Denver offense, I think it might start slow, but I think it picks up as the game goes on. I think they'll have a decent day. I think the Denver defense is a solid game. Raiders offense, I think will maybe have a couple drives. They look good, but I think for the most part it looks bad. Raiders defense, again, I think it probably is a mixed day. It starts off well, then the Broncos defense kind of finds its footing as the game goes on. I'm going to say the Broncos take this game. I'll say 24 to, I'll say 24 to 14 Broncos. I kind of want to say 24 to 16, but I'll just say 24 to 14 Broncos in this game. Niners, Packers. So I was going to pick the Packers regardless if Purdy and Bosa played, but with both of them being out, I might feel much better with my Packers pick. I'm honestly surprised that the percentage is not a bit more skewed in the Packers' favor with those two guys being out. But I mean, they get obviously no Purdy and no Bosa, so that's going to be an issue for the Niners. And even with those guys, I would have picked the Packers, but Packers offense has just been playing pretty well most year. It's kind of even with Malik Cunningham when Jordan Love is out. Jordan Love is kind of he's had a really he's had a good season, but he has a couple of throws and a couple of drives where it's like, Jesus, like what is this guy doing? And then he has a couple of throws and a couple of drives. It's like, oh my God, like this guy, like it looks just like Aaron Rodgers, like with his prime with the Packers. But no, what is this notification I'm getting on my phone? Oh, wow. LaMelo Ball scored 50 points and lost. That's unfortunate. Uh, that's very unfortunate. But anyway, Niners obviously have Brandon Allen for this game. Again, don't know too much about him, but I mean, he's a backup for a reason. I think in the very limited NFL action, I don't think he really played that well, if I remember right. McCaffrey's probably going to be getting a heavy workload in this one. They're probably going to try to make it easy for Allen. Probably a lot of handoffs, probably a lot of short passes, is my guess. Um, yeah, I just don't think schematically in a matchup or matchup wise, it's very good for the Niners in this game. Niners defense, the Niners win this game. I think their defense is going to have to step up, obviously, with Purdy out mainly, but it's going to be obviously hard with Bosa. I think the Niners defense will end up keeping this game a bit closer than people may be expecting without Purdy in there. But I think the Packers offense is just going to find its footing as the game goes on. I think the Packers defense is their offense rather is going to kind of a mixed day, some good drives, some bad drives, where it's like, why the Packers not taking control of this game? They should with no Purdy. But I think the Packers will end up, just getting the, getting their flow going as the game progresses. I feel pretty solid with like 24, maybe 24 to 27, somewhere in that range, the amount of points the Packers score. Yeah, so the Packers defense, I think will have a solid game in this one. But again, maybe with the Bears factor last week, it's obviously a different team, different situation. But maybe with Brandon Allen, the Niners just do something that the Packers can't really prepare for. I think it's going to be Shanahan's going to call a similar game as if Purdy was in there, but just make it more conservative. Again, I mentioned a lot of short passes, just check downs. I think McCaffrey, this is going to be a really good PPR game for him. A lot of dump offs to him, probably check downs. I just think that it would be more interesting with Purdy in this game. Again, I would have picked the Packers anyway if Purdy and Bosa played. Packers have just been playing better. Niners just have a bunch of issues this season. So the Packers. Packers aren't perfect either, but they've been better, and they're just schematically, I just think the teams match up. It favors the Packers. Kind of a bummer, Purdy, more so Purdy than Bosa, even though obviously it's a bummer that both those guys are out. I think it definitely would have been closer if those two guys played. I do think the Niners still have a chance in this game, but I just can't pick them, especially with Purdy out. I'm just going to say that Packers take this game 24 to, I'll say 14. I keep predicting like similar scores, but it just, I don't know. It's my thought process. That's what I'm going to go with. I'll say Packers win this game 24 to 14, but I could see the Niners pulling off the upset. Kind of a weird game, kind of hard game to predict, rather. I'm going to be interested to see how this one plays out. Cardinals, Seahawks. So this is honestly one of the hardest games I've had to predict this year. So you see the money line is dead even. The percentage of picks is nearly dead even, 51-49 in the Cardinals' favor. I'm pretty sure the spread is literally 0, so it's a pick 'em. I've only seen it a couple times, like ever. Let's see. Oh, now the Seahawks, it was at 0 the last time I checked, but now the Seahawks favored by half a point. Oh, this is such a hard game to predict. This is as close to a coin flip game as I honestly think we've had this season. I'm going to pick the Cardinals in this game. I'm not confident in that at all, though. What? Okay, I'll talk about the Seahawks. The Seahawks, of course, can win this game. They're at home. They're coming off a big win against the Niners. Their defense played well last week. The Cardinals are due for a loss. They were, I want to say the Cardinals were 3-4, and now they've won 3 in a row. Trying to think. Okay, now this is bothering me. I need to see how much of a win streak the Cardinals are on. This is bothering me now. Cardinals schedule. Let's see. Okay, so the Cardinals are on a 4-game win streak. So they are kind of due for a loss. The Seahawks know that they kind of have to start piling up some wins to make a playoff push. And also, this is a divisional game. So if I'm not so yeah, the Seahawks win this game. They are bad as they've been for the most part, besides that Atlanta game and I guess the game last week against the Niners. Besides those two games, as bad as they've been after they started off 3-0, if they win this game, they're 6-5. The Cardinals are 6-5. They have the lead in the division, unless the Rams are. So I guess that the Rams would have to win too, and then they would have the tiebreakers. They beat the Seahawks. I think the Rams are going to lose. You can see my pick here. Spoiler alert. So I think, yeah, the Seahawks win this game, the Rams lose, and I don't know who would have the tiebreak over Seahawks Niners that they split, but I think the Niners are going to lose anyway. So the Seahawks win this game, according to my predictions. The Seahawks win this game. They are going to be first in the division. That is absolutely insane with how poorly their season has gone after they started off 3-0. Besides that kind of outlier Falcons game they played well, and then last week they didn't even play that great. It felt like they just ended up kind of sneaking away with a win in that one. Not to discredit them, but they did pull it out themselves. So, yeah. So anyway, back to my logic. So the Cardinals are due for a loss. Seahawks at home, coming off a big win against the 49ers team, and be extra motivated to win this game. So they'll at least be tied for the division lead record wise. Oklahoma upsets Bama 24-3. Jesus, Alabama. But yeah, she getting sidetracked here. I mean, honestly, I might honestly just convince myself to pick the Seahawks, change my pick in this one. It's very hard to predict. Very hard to predict. Okay. I think the Seahawks defense, I think regardless of who wins this game, I think this is a close game. I do see a scenario where the Seahawks maybe win by more than one score, but I think that the Cardinals win, it's definitely one score, but I think the Seahawks win, it will be one score. I think it's a close game regardless of who wins. It's within one score, probably goes right down to the wire, the last play of the game in some form. I think the Seahawks offense could have a. I'm actually going to predict that the Seahawks offense has a pretty good game in this one. Cardinals defense has been playing pretty well the past couple weeks, but I think the Seahawks offense, just kind of a gut feeling, is a good game in this one. Cardinals defense has been kind of prone to having some rough games, getting the ball moved on it. Seahawks defense, I think, has a good game in this one. I think Kyler Murray's legs and the Cardinals' run game, especially Kyler Murray scrambling and his scramble ability, his mobility, I think that's going to cause issues to the Seahawks, their defense. Oh, God. I almost want to pick the Seahawks here. So, yeah, I think it's going to cause issues to the Seahawks defense. I think the Cardinals' offense has a kind of a mixed day. I think the Cardinals' defense also kind of is a mixed day. But oh, God, this is such a hard game to predict. But I'm going to say the Cardinals just narrowly pull off a win here. Oh, God. I honestly might change if I change my pick to the Seahawks, I'll comment it in I'll pin my comment under this video. But that's how like unsure I am. But I would literally, if I had to do a confidence probability, I would probably say the exact percentage of the picks, the winner picks here in my league. I would probably say I have a 51% confidence probability the Cardinals going to win this game. That's how unsure I am of this game. I literally think this is a coin flip game. And now I keep saying this. One team trying to blow the other one out. I'm gonna look like a friggin' idiot. But I'm pretty confident this game is gonna be close. Either team can definitely win this game. Ooh, very, very hard game to predict in this one. Such a hard game to pick. I don't know. I'm just gonna say the Cardinals just end up narrowly winning this game. Seahawks lose a close game. I'll say Cardinals win this one. Final score of I'll say 27. Oh God, that might be too many. I don't know. Whatever. I'll say that. Okay, I'll say Cardinals win 27 to. I'll say 27, 23, 24. Oh God. I'll say 27-24 Cardinals. Oh, this is such a tough game to predict, though. Oh, that's going to be a fun one to watch. Sunday Night Football, we had Eagles, Rams, and as I mentioned, I'm going to pick the Eagles in this game. Of course, I definitely can see the Rams winning this game, but I just think the Eagles match up well with the Rams. I think the Eagles' run game is going to cause the Rams' defense a lot of issues. Although I think Devontae Smith is out in this game. Let me double check that. Devontae Smith. Yeah, hamstring ruled out versus Rams. So yeah, that I don't think it's going to impact the game too much. I think obviously AJ Brown's probably going to get more of a workload, which that's good because I desperately need a win for my fantasy team, the one he's on. So that would be good for me. I just think, like you mentioned, the Eagles' run game is going to cause issues for the Rams. I think the Eagles' offense is a pretty solid game in this one. Even though the Rams' defense, I've been kind of impressed with it this year with how well it's played. I think the Rams even just a rough game in this one. I think the Eagles defense has a good game too. I think Stafford and company kind of a rough game. I mean, the Rams. Uh, I mean, I was high on the Rams going into the year. I think I only predicted them to go 10-7, but I was still pretty high on them going into this year. I still think 10-7 is definitely a possibility for this. Well, it is a possibility. I think a realistic possibility is 10-7. I think the Rams are going to make the playoffs still, but I just think they have a rough game in this one. If they do win this game, which of course is possible, well, I mean, realistically possible, I just think their offense is going to have to have like a really good game because I just feel maybe the Rams defense is a good game, and I feel pretty confident that the Rams defense can have a rough game in this one due to Saquon and the Eagles' run game. Uh, but the Eagles are due for a loss, I guess. So maybe that benefits the Rams. Rams do not want to fall to 5-6, even though I think they'll be fine if they do. So maybe some extra motivation for them there. I mean, the Rams, they just barely beat my team last week, which I was at that game. Very entertaining game to watch. They barely beat my team last week. Obviously, the Eagles are much better than my team, the Patriots. And the Rams narrowly beat that. And then they were coming off a loss to the Dolphins, too, who at home, prime time. And I think the Eagles are definitely far better than the Dolphins this year. So I just think the matchup favors Philly. I'm going to say the Eagles. Maybe this is a bit bold. I'm going to say they win this game by more than one score. I'm going to say Philly wins this game. I'll say 27-17, but definitely could see the Rams winning. It's going to be an interesting Sunday night game, but I feel fairly confident with the Eagles in that one. Ravens Chargers. I'm going to go with the Ravens in this game. I had the Chargers originally, and then I switched the Ravens. So the well, not like officially, but when I was in my head thinking about it, and then I thought about it more. I listened to some people talk about the games this week, and I'm like, I'm going to change to the Ravens. So now that I did that, the Chargers are probably going to win the game. But I just kind of I saw a comment on one of the videos I was watching. The guy said that this has the potential or like the most obvious Ravens blow out a good team on prime time, like, statement game, like scenario, like I've seen in a while. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now that I'm thinking about it too. Because even when I would pick the Chargers, I knew that was a possibility. And then I'm like, whatever. I don't, maybe the Ravens don't blow the Chargers out. I don't think they will. I think it's going to be close, actually. If the Chargers win, I think it's a close game. I don't see the Chargers winning by more than one score. If the Ravens win, I have a 27-24 final, or not a 27-24. I have a 24-20 final. That's my 44 total points here. My tiebreaker, I had 24-21, so that's probably what the final score will be. Then I'll be off a point, but I took a point off for the Chargers. But yeah, I could see the Ravens winning close. I'm predicting that, but I could see a scenario like I just mentioned where the Ravens win big. The Chargers are kind of due for a loss, and they maybe got a bit lucky to not blow the game last week against the Bengals with McPherson missing 2 kicks. So maybe they got a bit lucky in that game because I think if McPherson I think even if he just makes one of the kicks, they end up winning that game, especially 2 of them. I feel even more confident saying the Bengals win that game. But obviously that didn't happen. But yeah, just a oof. This I didn't even mention Harbaugh Bowl. Obviously Jim Harbaugh versus John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh is 3-2-0. Okay, no, either 2 or 3-0. Yep, this is bothering me now. I gotta look this up. Yeah, 2-0. Yep. So obviously the big I don't exactly remember this. Well, obviously I remember the Super Bowl with the Baltimore and 49ers. That was one of John's wins. I don't exactly remember the second one, off the top of my head. Must have been a regular season game. I'm kind okay. Nope. Now that's bothering me. I gotta look this up too. Um, let's see. Ah, can't find it. Whatever. Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can't find it, but obviously the most memorable or the more memorable one's the Super Bowl matchup. I mean, this is definitely going to be, I'm very much looking forward to this game. Chargers are red hot. They were three and either 3-2 or 3-3, and they've won four in a row from that point, right? I'm not okay. Now I got to look this up. Now this is bothering me. I'm just gonna look everything up at this point. Um, Chargers schedule. I know their loss to the Cardinals was their last loss. Um, so yeah, Chargers on a four-game win streak. So I guess you can make the argument they're kind of due for a loss. The Ravens coming off a loss against the Steelers, just kind of an ugly loss where their offense really didn't play that great and they narrowly lost. It's not a great logic to pick a team, but I really just have a hard time seeing the Ravens losing two in a row and falling to, well, not maybe not losing two in a row, but I have a hard, well, yes, I do have a hard time seeing that, but especially because more so because they'll be 7-5. That's kind of a, mediocre record, just two games above 500, 12 games into the season. So I just kind of don't see that. I think the Chargers, I mm, I think 7-4 just suits them better than the Ravens dropping to 7-5 is kind of a decent way to put it, I guess. Oh, I mean the Chargers are again, I mentioned they're on a hot streak, but do I really see them beating the Ravens who are going to be pissed off coming off that loss to the Steelers, who rarely drop two games in a row under the Lamar and Harbaugh era? Essentially, again, the Harbaugh Bowl, they'll probably be extra motivated to get a win for John Harbaugh there. You can say the same thing with the Chargers, obviously. And the good the good thing for the Chargers is when it comes to, I mentioned there, you can make the argument the Chargers are due for a loss. It seems like Jim Harbaugh doesn't really fall into those traps. Kind of like the Broncos, they just prepare for everything on a week to week basis, don't really let anything else affect them. So yeah, I think the Ravens offense is a good game in this one. I could see it having a rough game. The Chargers defense has been really good, but I just kind of a gut feeling the Ravens offense is a good game, bounce back game. Derrick Henry gets going. The Chargers run defense has been surprisingly very good this year for the most part. I think Lamar scrambling probably causes the Chargers issues. I think the Ravens offense is a good game in this one. I think the Ravens defense, I think it actually is going to have a solid game in this one. I think the Chargers offense is kind of going to have a surprisingly rough game, but I think they'll end up having a couple good drives, put together a decent amount of points, 20. So I think they'll have a decent game, both the Ravens defense and the Chargers offense. And the Chargers defense, I kind of mentioned with the Ravens offense, I think it's going to have not a horrible game, but I think it's going to kind of have a rough game in this one. Maybe a bit similar to how it did against the Bengals last week, more so in the second half. But I don't see the Chargers playing as good as they did in the first half against Cincy, against the Ravens. If the Chargers win this game, I think it's just going to be because their defense just shakes off that rough second half performance against the Bengals last week and puts together a good game plan, executes well. And their offense, I mean, we've definitely seen the Ravens defense to be very vulnerable this season. Even the Steelers moved the ball on it pretty efficiently pretty much the whole game last week. They just couldn't score. There's 6 field goals there. Greg Roman, maybe it's a Greg Roman. What is Greg Roman revenge game? Maybe he knows a thing or two about the Ravens offense, obviously, because he was their coordinator for a couple of years. So maybe he's a big factor in this one. Haven't really seen too many people talking about that besides the one guy I really watched the Goat Host, that channel. Um, yeah, I just oh, definitely a hard game to predict. Definitely can see the Chargers winning this game, but I have the Ravens winning this close. But I honestly, I kind of maybe this is a little bold, but I kind of feel like it's more likely the Ravens win this game by more than one score, maybe even in like an ass beating by multiple scores. I won't say multiple scores. I'll say by like 10-14, maybe like 17-21 max, something like that. Then the Chargers winning this game outright. Maybe that's a bit bold, but just kind of a gut feeling that the Ravens have the potential to win this game fairly convincingly and bounce back. We haven't really seen that from the Chargers. Maybe they are due for just a really shitty game this year, and this is it. But again, that's not really a factor with Jim Harbaugh teams, as I mentioned. Definitely a hard game to predict, but I'm just going to say Ravens take this game 24-20. Very much looking forward to the Harbaugh Bowl, though, for the third time. Ooh, going to be interesting to see how this. Well, actually, if the Chargers win this game, they'll be ahead of the Ravens in the playoffs because the Steelers are obviously in the division lead and the tiebreaker right now. So the Ravens are a wild card right now. So the Chargers win this game, they'll jump them in the wild card positions. Unless I'm missing something here. So it'll be 8-4, and the Ravens will be 7-5. So yeah, whew, definitely an interesting game. Excited to see how this one plays out. Got all the games here. Yeah, pretty interesting group of games this week. I hate getting the Thursday games wrong. I've only done like I think this is my third game I've gotten wrong. Yeah, pretty sure this is only my third Thursday game I've gotten wrong this year. But I just hate starting off 0-1. It's just so ugly. Just hate seeing that friggin' red X there. Interested in this one. I am a bit interested in this game. I think Commanders won this game fairly convincingly. I'm interested in this game as the Chiefs are going to win in a blowout. This game could be interesting. Could be interesting in this one. I feel good with Denver. Definitely interested in this game. This game, oh God. Oh boy. Can't wait for this one. Such a hard game to predict. I think the Eagles may be a bit or not controversial, but maybe a bit bold. I think win by more than one score. Not and when I say that, it's not like 10. That's only two more points technically than one score. So I mean, it's not super bold, but I think most people are setting a one-score game in this one. Definitely, obviously possible. I mean, it's obviously possible the Rams even win. And then this game I just talked about. Very much looking forward to this game. So yeah, pretty good group of games this week. I'm doing a bit better with my picks. I'm in the 91 percentile, so I'm moving up a bit here. So yeah, I will end the video here. Good luck with your fantasy, all your predictions, your picks, and your betting, as I always say. Um, Something else I was just gonna say. No, whatever. Anyway, I'll end the video here. Good luck with all fantasy betting, picks. I just said that, but I'll just say it again. I don't know why. Have a great football Sunday, and I am probably not going to write an article on the Thursday and Friday games. I'll just probably do a video breaking down those couple games, those 4 games, instead of writing an article for each of them. Probably come out with that Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. But anyway, I'll end the video here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you have a good day of football. Enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good one, guys.